Starting day one, messaging market today and tomorrow. Well, a mouthful, but I think there's enough to talk about. And first of all, I would like to thank the audience coming here in so many. So thank you. Yeah, good to see you too. Happy to have you all here. And but I'll just hush and please welcome. Take a seat if you can find one spot available. There's not that many anymore. So welcome to the session. Anyway, session number one of today. I think there will be 4 or 5 today, tomorrow, the next day. So enough to talk about what's going on in the industry and especially on the messaging. I think there's more than enough to talk about, and we'll do so. So I'm very happy and most of all very honored to have this lovely senior experts from the market here sitting next to me, and I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. And Carla, if I may start with you.
Ladies first. So my name is Carla Oliveira. I'm head of sales at Go4Mobility. Go4Mobility is an aggregator that is based in Portugal, Lisbon. We provide SMS messaging solutions, voice, DIDs, two-way messaging, and I'm super happy to be here with you and all my colleagues. Let's chat.
Okay, thank you so much and welcome. Gene.
Yeah, hi, good morning to everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. I think it's a great first session, especially with the topic of before and now in the future of SMS. My name is Gene Pradas. I work for BTS in charge of global strategic development, and we're involved providing tech solutions to our customers. We're in the voice space, the messaging space, and the cloud numbering space. And looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you and welcome to you too. Igor.
Thank you very much. Igor Skutsinja, Senior Business Development Manager for Lang Telecom. We're a major transit wholesale carrier, terminating billions of minutes of international voice calls, billions of international SMS. And we also have some serious expertise in everything AI related, AI and anti-fraud.
Okay, thank you and welcome to you too. Last but not least, Nick, the messageologist here in the,
No one's ever said it so fluently. So, hi, my name's Nick Lane, Chief Messaging Officer and Messageologist at Mobile Squared. We are the leading business messaging intelligence providers covering SMS. We do a lot of work on SMS, WhatsApp, RCS, CPaaS and beyond, and looking forward to a good discussion this morning.
Okay, thank you so much and welcome to you too, Nick. Okay. Nick, if I can actually start with you, because I know and everybody in the market knows or should know that you write quite some and you do quite some studies. You publish them as well. What's going on in the market? What do you see happening? Because some people say, oh, well, guys, it's alarming. Other people are saying, you know what, we were lucky at the COVID and now it's going down. Some people say, no, but there's still growth. I mean, especially on the financial side, they always believe that there's a huge amount of growth. What's going on? What kind of trends do you see? Can you kick it off, please?
Okay, stop me after 20 minutes, okay?
After 10.
10, all right. Okay, so at the moment, I think you need to split, if you look at it from an SMS perspective, you need to split it into 2, domestic, international. Domestic is pretty stable, although growth, where there is growth, it's probably very low single digit, so there's not really much happening there, but it obviously accounts for 85% of all spend, majority of traffic, so that's a good base. Then we have international, and that is a very turbulent space, as I think everyone is probably aware of. So traffic is dropping primarily because of the major hyperscalers are limiting their spend because of the high international termination rates, the AIT, the trashing that comes as a result of all of this. So that's where the market kind of is, but I think you then need to put some perspective on it. So if you then go back to the 2017 to 2019 period, there is okay growth in SMS. You then obviously have the COVID period, so 2020, let's say, to 2023, where you had exponential growth.
On all sides? Organically and I mean, original and also revised?
Looking at kind of certainly on the international traffic side and spend, you saw massive growth, primarily because of the adoption and usage of one-time passwords, as we all know. So now what we're really seeing is kind of another reset, I think, in that because if you then look at kind of even with the drops in spend of the hyperscalers from middle of 2023 onwards, even though we're seeing large declines in lots of traffic in a lot of markets, the more developed markets, where the pricing hasn't really changed that much, are very stable, and they're kind of propping up the overall landscape for SMS. So what you're actually seeing is, again, I think another kind of rebalancing of the marketplace, because if you look at where we are today, even though we've got all of the turbulence, compared to where we were 2019, we're still significantly higher. So although everyone's kind of panicking, the fact that we are seeing these drops of spend from the hyperscalers, they're still spending a lot more than they were 4 years ago. So the market's still kind of increased. It's kind of, as I was saying, kind of resetting itself in terms of where we are moving forward. So I think there's, looking at it in the longer term, kind of it just actually, we're not in a bad period. It's just kind of, you've kind of got this battle between the hyperscalers and what they want to pay and the operators what they want to get. And I think, this is part 3 of the trilogy. So I think, from here on in, we'll probably find an equilibrium and things will stabilize again.
Yeah, let me.
Okay, thank you. Please, Gene, drop in.
Let me add to that. Nick just talked about 2019. Just remember 4 or 5 years ago, right when everybody was really excited, there was 18, 20% real growth. No one even talked about fraud, basically, at that time. I mean, the industry, or let's call it the service, is going through a transition. Like most transitions. It's changed a lot. It is a unique channel for distribution. More and more industries, whether it's banking, e-commerce, retailers, telcos, they're all much more engaged than ever before. So I'm not to say that's a reset button, but without a doubt, there's some turbulence, as we know, and a lot of it has to do with the fraud, the regulatory aspects that also take a place in the equation. But we're going through a transition. It still is the most effective way of communicating. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with AI smartphones the day of tomorrow and what they will be presenting. There's a couple of announcements this week, even yesterday, having to do with Apple and Google coming out with a new AI phone in the fall. Yeah. I mean, so we don't know what's going to be available there, but without a doubt, people are using it's the one vehicle that you can contact basically anybody in the world.
Mm-hmm. All right, Igor.
If I could provide some more details as for how exactly the market is transforming, because we see that communication demand is not getting smaller. It's just that the traffic, the messages are going through not so controlled, not so operator-ish channels. And in 2018, 2019, flash calls and OTTs, they weren't really reliable. You couldn't actually make business on relying on those channels. And it was basically something to try out, more of an idea, and the figures, I would assume that they were very, very different from where it is now. And WhatsApp now is, by many enterprises, considered to be a reliable channel of delivery of one-time password, flash calls as well.
How much percentage of the enterprise?
A very considerable one, and especially alarming that it's not like just like 20 or 30 or 40% of all enterprises. It's the big guys that make the most part of the traffic. They are switching over to those other channels. And now, if 2018, 2019, it wasn't something that you could, actually rely on, now it is. Now it's an actual product that is actually operating, and it's actually serving the needs. So,
okay, Carla, anything you want to add? Well, what do you see in the market? What trends do you see?
Yeah, what can I add? They already said everything. I believe the industry is not the same as 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. We are now talking about messaging apps, RCS, the announcement of Apple saying that now we will adopt the RCS. But despite this internet of messaging on the internet, I still believe on SMS. I still believe the traditional SMS. It will be the simplest way to communicate with the customers. I believe brands will switch some of the communication to the digitalization, to the internet, but I'm very positive with the increase of messaging, and the traditional SMS will keep here because we have the coverage. Everyone has the possibility to send an SMS. So it will change, we will adapt, and I believe the success is how we can adapt to these new movements.
All right. And please, guys.
But let me just add something, because
Yep.
what's also happening is that the customers, as well as end users, depends where you are in the equation, are becoming more demanding. Okay, so they're expecting faster service, quicker response, quality-wise. So those are things that the people who are providing services need to adapt to in order to address
Tell
that.
that to an operator. Faster.
How do we monetize this?
That's the key.
That's the key.
Monetization.
That's the key.
Just like Igor's mentioned about Flash Call, it was considered fraud maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes,
Now
sure.
it's a business model.
Model. Yep. There you go. All right. Igor?
I would say that we are now in the same position that New York taxi drivers were 10 to 15 years ago. I mean, remember, like when Uber showed up, they didn't have to adhere to any rules and regulations. You just drive and you provide the service, and obviously you can do that at a cheaper rate. And in New York, for example, the requirements are very, very high, and the license was very, very pricey. So what happened is that the Uber could charge a lot less, because the taxi drivers were stuck with all those fees and all those overheads that they have to do. And besides, they had to, to adhere to a very large list of regulations. So one of the things that we maybe, like, it's a wishful thinking, but one of the things that we would like to see is to see the alternative channels, to follow the same rules and regulation that we have to. So.
Okay, but you know what? 2 weeks ago, I was in the U.S., but I miss my yellow cab. I just miss my yellow cab. I love that. I mean, I got their model. The old school is like a fixed price per mile, kilometer, whatever. And Uber came in and was really disruptive, because you don't need any license, you don't need anything, you don't even need to talk and speak the language. And if you have a driver's license, start, right?
What about your children?
I showed them pictures of a yellow cab.
Yeah.
But you know what? The yellow cabs have also adapted. They're now cleaner. They're nicer now, because now they have competition.
I love my Rasta guy, with some reggae, and where you want to go. I love that. I love that shit. But okay, that's a sidestep. Nick, you mentioned rebalancing. We need to rebalance. I mean, Carla talked about it. Okay, you guys, things, they go up, they go down. Like housing prices, it goes up and down. We'll adjust, but by the end of the day, it will increase. But going a bit more into the rebalancing, what are the real reasons what we should look at, and where, and then bridge it to the possible opportunities we might see or should grab?
I think it comes down
6
to...
questions. Sorry.
Okay, let's do one at a time then. Okay, so the rebalancing. I think it comes down to what's the fair price. Because I think, go back to pre-COVID times, it was the hyperscalers that were pressuring operators, and the whole industry, it's a race to the bottom. It's who could, scrape the cheapest price possible to send their traffic. So you've got that as a starting point. Now you've got the operator saying, actually, this is our turn. We think we're going to put the price up for whatever reason.
So they woke up, or what? Just a
I
curveball.
can't comment on their sleep patterns. I don't know. So, but anyway, so their view was actually, no, we're going to start charging more for whatever reason. I don't think we want to go into that, because again, that's probably another couple of different panel sessions.
Yes.
So then you've got the hyperscalers saying, well, hang on a minute, we're not paying that. We wanted to get that rate. You're now charging us this rate. We want to get somewhere in between. So again, that's what the rebalancing is. So overall, if you think about what the average termination rate was, even in middle of 2021, it was 3 cents pretty much. Now we're over 7 cents. And that's that's pretty much too high. You know, I think at the messaging event last week in London, was it last week in London?
Yeah, last week.
It was last week, wasn't it? So, you know, the view there was, I asked a couple of people on the panel, a couple of operators, what their price cap should be, and they both agreed 10 cents. So when we did a similar poll with obviously our partners, GTC, you know, that 10 cents again was kind of the top price. So, you know, that's kind of, I think, what we should be looking at as a cap. And also in the modelling that we've done, looking at kind of where traffic drops off as a result of high prices. So at the moment we're seeing a big drop in prices. Certainly this is international, and you're seeing a significant drop in spend. But if we capped, we modelled it, so where there's a termination rate over 15 cents, we capped it to 15 cents, and the market size dropped by only 9% over the forecast period. But in actual fact, where we capped the price at 10 cents over our forecast period, we still have growth in the industry. So that shows that, you know, there is the price elasticity around the service that we're offering is there, and it's, I think, pretty clear to see. Anything over 10 cents, you're going to start to see a drop-off in traffic. And that's kind of what we see from all the research as well.
Because I
You're
remember...
talking about drop-off in traffic or migration to other channels?
That's two different things.
Yes.
So yeah, so the drop-off of traffic is then kind of the consequence. I guess the consequence is that it goes onto other channels. So you're starting to see a large increase. So the majority of lost A2P SMS traffic is actually just lost.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's not that it's just not gone to anywhere.
Not going to
it's just
happen.
gone. They stop.
Yeah.
They just stop using the channel altogether. So what we're now starting to see is gradually more and more are migrating over to WhatsApp. And we're starting to see a lot of traffic migrate over onto RCS as well. But again, you've got to put all of this into perspective. WhatsApp is really only in 2 markets, India and Brazil. And RCS is only in 3. And it's significantly a number of years behind on the commercialization model of WhatsApp. You know, and RCS is big in India, Brazil, and Mexico. And both WhatsApp and RCS combined are still a tiny percentage of what SMS is. So again, you've got to put all this into perspective. You've got all the hype around Apple coming in, and they will actually have bigger impact than we thought, actually. We're just finishing our number crunching on that. But, sorry, what's the question?
But we
I've
can't.
waffled on for so long.
Sorry, we can't forget that the markets are in different stages. So we have North America with a huge presence now in 2023, but we know that we'll grow Asia Pacific. It's going to be the next one leading the growth. And then we have more mature markets as Europe, and we have Africa with the blue ocean of opportunities because of the lack of tech penetration. So it's different. These kind of discussions are getting quite different if we are talking in different markets.
That's the thing. You can't just lump everything as one. You can't give this a global view and just say this is what's happening. Because even with SMS, you know, the global view is, okay, it's in decline, but in some markets it's in a fairly decent position. But in a lot of markets where there are high international termination rates, obviously it's going to be in decline because the brands, hyperscalers, don't want to pay that. But it's the same with RCS and WhatsApp. You know, it's just a few pockets of opportunity. Someone's asked us about RCS in Europe. It's like, it's just not there yet. You know, you look at what's happening in Germany, it's just, and that's, you know, and they launched it 4 years ago. Nothing happening. UK, it's been live for years. Nothing's really happening. It's starting, but it's going to be slow. And when it will happen, when the boom comes...
Is it because of adaptation, or is it just technology, or not ready yet, or what are the reasons for that it's on a slow pace? Because we tend to talk about things 10 years and then it will happen, right? That's what we're going to do.
But how if you look at it, how do brands communicate with customers? The only time customers really want to communicate with the brand is when they're pissed off. You know, so then they'll call the customer care. Yeah. So then you've got that two-way interaction. Otherwise, what do they use? Email, which is one way. You know, SMS, one way. You know, they're the two biggest channels. In-app push notification, pretty much one way. You know, if you want to respond to that, you've got that option. So all of a sudden, you know, consumers and brands, they are kind of designed and engineered almost to have one-way communication. So you've got to change that. It's a mindset thing. But from Brown's side, they've got to be able to process that with their CRM platform, whatever else. Because if someone does RCS or even WhatsApp, and someone's got to be on hand basically if they need to step in, if a bot can't answer a question, to be there and go, oh, actually, and that you don't have that. Or if you send out a marketing message on RCS, for example, and someone replies, where does that reply go to? Who's managing that reply? At the moment, it's just sending alarm bells around going, we've got a response, a bit like Ghostbusters. We got one.
Oh, sure. One second. Guys, if you want to bump in and you have any questions, let's make this interactive, because I know you're all, you're not sitting here just only to listen, but if you want to be interactive, please do. Get your questions over here, and we're more than happy to answer them. Igor.
From us, the messaging aggregator side, is why the RCS is developing very, very slowly. The major reason is that it requires a lot more effort from all the people in the supply chain to actually make things in RCS work. All those things that we must take care of, registering the sender, registration the campaign, registration, just opening an operator, and then do all those manual labor to make sure that RCS is going. It's just like last year, the RCS is developing with the speed you drag it with. You don't drag it, it's not going anywhere. But slowly but surely, more and more resources are devoted to RCS, and big things to operators that would like to make kind of a promoting campaign when they put a lower price for RCS than for SMS. And this is the language that is very, very easy to understand for enterprises because they see the financial value right away. So we're devoting more and more resources to that, and our volumes of RCS are growing 2x, 3x, 4x month on month, and we're now opening more and more resources. So we drag it with a lot higher speed now.
Okay, curveball. Can we compare it with when we had our normal phones? No, and we moved to smartphones, right? Is that what's going to happen with RCS? You catch my drift? Okay. Because when we had, anybody of you, when we had our normal phones, no smartphones, we just do SMS and we call. There you go. And then we moved into the smartphone area. Is it like, are we on a point like that as well now? Is that a fair comparison?
I think the difference is if you went into, so agencies control the budgets, the big budgets for all the brands. So, what we're really talking about is, let's forget the whole domestic international, because RCS is going to primarily be kind of a domestic play. So if you go into a big agency, what's always happened, certainly in London, I know this is true in New York and lots of other places, you go in and say, we've got this amazing platform, it's called RCS, so, woo, you can do this on it, you can do carousels, and everything, woo, and it's on an Android phone, and everyone will go, huh? What? We've all got iPhones. Yeah. So, you're talking to an audience that just don't really get it. Their tech is Apple. But if you can now go in and actually say, right, we've now got a smartphone channel that you can now, it doesn't matter what the device is. So with RCS and Apple coming on board, it becomes almost device agnostic. So it becomes a smartphone messaging channel, which means that you can go into agencies and say, right, you can now probably reach almost 100% of all smartphones in most markets. And that is a fundamentally different approach, and agencies will suddenly go, okay, that's actually really interesting. Because all of a sudden, the ubiquity that we've used to get SMS up and running, we can now apply to smartphones. So that's kind of the game-changing, cliche bit.
Okay.
Yeah, there's I think there are some operators, not to name them, who are positioning RCS as really, if they're trying to sell, messaging A2P, they basically allow RCS as a given. And what they try to do is upsell, all right? Because the question is, are people willing to pay, or brands are willing to pay more for the RCS options? Mm-hmm. Is there a return on investment on that? So it depends also how you want to position from a selling point. I mean, how do you approach your customer base? And do you give it away and then try to upsell the added features? It looks like it's one of the ways that it's working in the market in some areas.
Because the people are acquainted to everything for free, sort of, right? Okay. Carla, you were talking about a very valid point. When Nick mentioned, okay, this is, let's say, the global picture, but there are differences in areas. Now, we also have here people in the audience and also virtually watching this and maybe even later want to know, okay, what are, let's say, the main differences in the regions? I mean, Nick, you oversee the world. You as well, Gene as well. You know, you're everywhere. Lank as well. So, where do you see, let's say, the majority of the differences? And what are those differences? Are there specific characteristics, maturity of a market, yes or no? Or is there something that they, catch up really fast because, for instance, 5G was rolled out a bit earlier than with the other ones? So where do you see, let's say, the differences in regions?
I believe the big differences are in how the technology is implemented or not in these regions. It's different to talk about America or North America and Africa. So we have different markets with different technologies, with different population. Where in Africa, the mobile number of devices are much lower, but we have a possibility to increase and blue ocean of opportunities there. And the audience in Europe, more mature market, it's different. So it will adapt to this RCS and to the WhatsApp and the other messaging apps differently if we compare it with the other regions. So for now, I expect that with the large companies going and developing in Asia, we expect a huge growth there. And I believe the SMS, it's simple, right? So it will continue to work. It will continue to grow, I believe. The price is a key of success of this, and the way that the brands adapt to these new technologies are different if you are in the more mature market or not mature market. So it depends.
Okay. Igor, you want to bump in?
I could add that the strategy is basically the same that was applied against Uber in some markets, and we see that around the world, Uber is being competed by local taxi companies that adjusted their pricing first of all. I mean, you cannot. The yellow cab has sentimental value, but if you charge
For me, yeah.
yeah. But are you willing to pay 3x for the same ride with the same comfort?
Actually, yes, and I get a hot dog as well on the corner. You know.
Okay. Well, not everyone thinks like that, and we think that adjusting the pricing model, considering the competition that brands that operators now have. I mean, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, they didn't have WhatsApp and flash calls as being their close competitors. Now they do, and adjusting their price model, making sure that they not only compete in terms of other metrics, but also they can compete on the pricing is key, and we see. This being the main impact on, for example, how those alternative services are being developed. I mean, in many European countries, WhatsApp is being priced above SMS, and they're not doing so great in A2P sense of the way. Whereas in other markets where the WhatsApp is significantly cheaper, they do very well.
Okay. Let's go to.
But let me just jump in
Yep.
here. But pricing is one aspect, very key, but I think the features that RCS offers is what's going to make that stand out versus just the pricing. Mm-hmm. You have to show why it's worth whatever you're going to charge for making that difference.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. You have to market it.
And to add on that, if you look at it, kind of what's happening with WhatsApp started as an inbound customer care channel in the same way Apple's done that with Message for Business, but not very successfully. But with WhatsApp, so it's very much a chat-based app, almost messaging app, and kind of that's kind of what the foundations have been and continue to be in the majority of markets. But if you look at RCS is very much being positioned as a kind of marketing platform. So that's already started out as outbound. So again, you've actually got very complementary platforms at the moment between RBM and WhatsApp. At some point, WhatsApp's going to become more marketing based in the next couple of years. RBM will probably become more chat based as well. But because we're already seeing from campaigns in Brazil and India, I think, and some of the kind of the smaller developed RBM markets, where when they start with the basic message or branded message, depending on which market, which is basically the SMS version of RCS, brands then start to see how effective it is, and then they're happy to then invest in a single message, which obviously has the premium. But that's where you then start to add the richer content. So we're kind of already seeing very quickly a switch over from the basic bottom SMS version of RCS onto the more, almost kind of part of the version that we've been talking about as an industry for about 6 years. So again, that will change in each market as well, depending on how people interact with brands.
Okay. Igor?
If I could add about introducing features, WhatsApp being a proprietary channel is very, very agile in introducing anything new. And since RCS involves so many parties, the changes would be implemented, I would assume, a lot slower. And this is where WhatsApp would definitely be trying to compete. I mean, they have another disadvantages compared to SMS and RCS. But that would be one of the things to consider very, very seriously. And how fast can we introduce new features into RCS? How fast can we maybe follow WhatsApp steps sometimes? Because that would matter.
Okay. Looking at the time, guys, I still want to go a bit more into monetization. And I think this is especially one point that you looked at. I mean, you mentioned, okay, 10 cents roughly would be, let's say, the pricing. Huh? The cap. Okay.
But you have Indonesia.
I was about to say.
Right?
And look at the traffic.
But looking at the profitability.
Look at the margin.
And then I'm coming to the next point because, I mean, sorry guys, but sort of like 40 years ago, I was working for a company called Orange, small company, very small. And we were looking at the voice, and we were killing each other on the voice side. Now, Gene, you're much younger than I am, but you do come from the same era where people were, especially the operators, fighting each other for a 0.00000001. Do we see the trend as well happening on the SMS side? Are we making the same mistake? Or is there something that we can do, and did we learn something, let's say, maybe from the voice guys, which we have to watch out for now on the messaging side? What can you tell us about it?
Well, I don't remember that time, but
No, but I do.
it's because of
You
dementia.
weren't both.
No, but no doubt that many people do feel that there's a lot of similarities between both areas of the voice area and the messaging side. Okay, and the positioning in the market, price strategies also. As you know, when you were at that time, margins on voice were 27 cents a minute.
Those were the days, guys, flying business, having lunches, fantastic.
Well, that's enough, forget it. And now, of course, on the messaging side, on the wholesale market, it's very competitive. And pricing is a big factor in that. And that's why you have now gray routes all over the place, just like in voice. Okay, you have there's some cross-bundling deals going on, not as many because it's always somewhat complicated. But we see pressure on the pricing side, very similar. So there's a lot of similarities between one and the other. The fraud aspect is another similarity between both the voice and the messaging side, all right? It looks like on the voice side, it continues, but between 20-30% down to like 5-10% is a big improvement. On the messaging side, I mean, Nick can validate, I think your statistics show that it's dropped from last year, but there's no growth, but it's still a big part of AIT is a big part of some of the business today. So there's a lot of similarities between one and the other. And so I think messaging area is learning actually from what has happened on the voice side in order to adjust.
Okay. Okay, Nick, want to jump in here?
It's understanding what companies should pay for. What is a messaging worth? What was a message worth? Because I think that this is part of the issue. So if you're looking at it from a customer care perspective, where if you then dial in and it's a voice call and you speak with an agent, the average cost for that is what, 5-6 cents? Dollars.
Dollars.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden, if you're then converting that call onto WhatsApp, and effectively, WhatsApp right now are charging 3 cents for that, but brands are willing to pay $1, $2 for that because it's still a massive cost saving. So it's almost as if actually you've got that point where that dollar is what operators are trying to reach. But again, it's coming from the call center world, that's a saving. Whereas in fact, what we're doing from the one-time password, we're just increasing costs for the same service. So again, you're going to have that friction and resistance from the brands that are using the service, because what's in it for them? Okay, it's a good customer experience, and operators know that, and so they're trying to charge a premium for that. So again, it's understanding what that balance is and where it is. So I think 15, 20, 28 cents, I think is the most expensive one at the moment out there. It's way too high to send. To send a one-time password that was probably costing 3 cents 2.5 years ago, for the same service. But, and we've seen from our modelling, when you go over a certain rate, the traffic drops. So, for example, we've looked at if an operator was charging 11 cents and they increased to 21 cents, within a month, they've lost half their traffic. In actual fact, over the course of a 12-month period, they're down, we worked it out, but it's about 12% down on if they hadn't changed their price. So in actual fact, increasing the price is just damaging their revenue anyway. So, at the moment, I think people just don't understand the dynamics of the marketplace and what it actually means for them.
On the finance side, the finance guy, the CFO would say, hey, you know what, yes, we have, but I mean, the revenue dropped, but you know what, my EBITDA went up.
Yeah, but this is
So
where the
really
exclusivity agreements come in, and this is the problem. Because if you've got an agreement, let's say, where the market's only worth 10 million in actual messages, let's say someone's providing, saying, okay, you get 20 million. So somewhere along the way, an extra 10 million's been generated. So if you then show to your C-suite, say, look, we got 20 million, fantastic. And they say, right, well, next year we want 24 million. And, and then who's
Well,
actually
I did
looking?
it in the old days.
Because as long as you get a
course.
check, I'm sure it's not a check anymore, old school, going back to your days with voice, a check. But there's almost a blindness that it's kind of like a blind reality that's kind of sweeping across the market, and that in itself is damaging. And if you think you're getting close to about 280 exclusivity agreements. Not all of them obviously are operating that way, but it's a growing trend, and it's an easy way of making money, because basically what's actually happening is you've got 30 hyperscalers typically, we believe. And they're generating 80% of all the spend on international. So all we're doing as an industry is trying to find new ways of getting more money out of those 30 companies. And that's it. It's not as if we're trying to grow the market, we're just trying to grow their spend. And that's why we're kind of going through this turbulent period, because in actual fact, if we went out and started selling this proposition to more businesses, then we'd have so much organic growth, we wouldn't know what to do with it.
All right.
And one of the consequences of those things happening is that the companies in telecom industry are decreasing the amount of partners that they're working on. Even though the pie is getting smaller, the thresholds for entering a very, very nice lucrative agreement.
Finance rules, man.
Yeah,
Finance
yeah.
rules.
So we see those thresholds sometimes even increasing, even though the guys on the other side, they know that they will have fewer SMS this year than the last one. But the thing is, it's a general kind of trend to decrease the amount of partners that are out there in the market, and the smaller guys would get beat.
So that's the normal process of the transition. Is that what we are talking about, Gene?
Well, I was going to just follow up on what Nick mentioned, something that's a big disruptor in this market, and that is these exclusive prepaid arrangements.
You hate those, right?
Which is,
We all should.
first of all, as you said, it's a finance game. This, at the end of the day, it's a finance game. But, there's big numbers out there, prepaid, and you're questioning whether or not, at the end, if you can't meet what you've basically committed to, well, then you just crank it up and then you get all that fake traffic in there. And that's a big disruptor, you know, and big numbers are out there, prepayment, and who's financing that? I think that's the money laundering question.
And if I could add to the exclusive agreement part of it, it stimulates artificial inflation of traffic. And one of the sad things that we're only talking about AIT in connection to SMS. So SMS gets the sigma, and you know the alternative channels. There's no saying on exactly the percentage and the trend on artificial inflation of traffic and flash calls and WhatsApp, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have the data, thus we don't talk about it, thus we don't raise this issue, even though it should be. And it makes the decision for enterprise even easier when they don't hear anything about AIT in WhatsApp and flash call. Plus, the unit price is smaller. So,
Okay. All right, guys. Looking at the time, and we're going to talk the whole day and even tomorrow about messaging. RCS is later on coming up this afternoon. So, apologize if we do not, let's say, tap on all the things, you know, because we will have detailed actually panel sessions for that, so I hope you will join that as well. So closing off, guys, predictions, glass balls, what will happen or what should we look out for, what will be important, what can you share with the audience, again, we should look out for. Carla, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I believe it's going to be challenging because the coming years, I don't know what will happen with the price. I don't know what will happen with the different markets, with the messaging apps. But we need to adapt our business models to everything that will come. We are in this industry for long years, and I dare say that it always be challenging. So it will continue to be. One of the big challenges is going to be fraud. We all know. We can't just be worried about the robustness of our gateways or how fast or how efficiently we are dispatching our traffic. Now we need to build a software to detect spam. We need to do new partnerships. We need to go to different markets. So we are here. We will still be here, and we will do our stuff.
Reminds me of a song, "I Will Survive," but that was
we
from
will
the 70s.
survive.
Gloria Gaynor. Gene.
I would just, again, what we mentioned earlier, talk about we're in a transition phase, and we really don't know. Anybody, to be honest, talks to anything beyond 3, 5-year, 10-year business plans, I think they're all made up anyway. So, you know, the key is to be there, all right, and react or try to proactively react to market conditions and make the best of it.
Okay, thank you. Igor?
Our message would probably be stay strong and be smart. So there are challenges, and they're going to get more and more serious with the flow of time, and we cannot stay on the same level that we are on today. We should introduce AI or continue to use AI to counter fraud, to introduce the AI practices into RCS. And sadly, the fraudsters and competitors, they aren't getting any dumber. I mean, they are getting more and more sophisticated. They're getting a lot more skillful, and we must be better than a year ago and 2 years ago.
Aren't they ahead?
Not really.
No? Okay, I trust you on this one. Nick, closing statement, please.
My worry is if the high international termination rates start spreading into domestic rates. That would be the concern, because if operators are worried about revenue, and that's why they've increased it on international, they do that to domestic.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, I guess it become $1 trillion industry. You wouldn't, I'm just saying that. But you know that's a quick fix.
Stay in business, guys. Stay in business.
So, you know, my message, certainly on SMS, bring rates down. You know, try and kind of stabilize the market, because ultimately SMS is the platform for pretty much everything. It's the platform for the growth and getting companies to embrace RCS, WhatsApp, Viber, etc. And then, you know, it's basically the foundation for CPaaS as well. So if you want to grow, you need that steady platform to be strong, not shaky.
So, listening to you, the glass is half full. Right?
How full?
Let me ask the audience, is the glass half full?
Depends on the region.
More or less? More or less? Challenging, but more or less. That's what we can conclude of. Thank you. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Igor. And thank you, Nick, for being here. You can even talk to these people. They are around the coming days. So if you have more questions which pop up maybe even later, talk to the guys. Again, honor and thank you for having this kickoff session here. More sessions to come. I would like to thank you, the audience, for being here and staying with us. I hope you maybe it's a confirmation. Maybe you learned something. I'm happy that you were here. Also, the virtual people over there behind the cameras. Thank you so much, and thank you, Deutsche Telekom, for sponsoring this session.